Hello and welcome to the Wisdom Factory, the women's section, which is called Women Matters. And we are meeting today for the first time. And our title is New Year, New Ideas, New Goals. It is open enough to talk a little bit about everything. And first thing of all, I'm Heidi Hörnlein, as you can see, and I'm organizing this, but I would like to, and I'm in Italy, by the way, I would like to everybody present themselves and say a little bit where they are from, what they are doing, and so on, while I'm checking if we are live now. Okay?
All right, I'm going to start. I am Monia in Vienna. We have no snow. It's a warm winter, and I envy you because you have this winter in Canada. But on the other hand, I like it because in the city it's rather hazardous sometimes. Okay, the new year started very exciting for me, so I will tell you later. Okay, Tammy?
Oh, sure, I'll jump in. So I'm Tammy Lee Meyer, and it's so nice to see you all again. I'm living in Vancouver. We don't have snow. And looks like we are live, so that's fantastic. Thanks, Heidi. I am deeply motivated to have these kinds of conversations where we really look at ourselves, what is happening in the world, and what we can do about it, so that we can better understand what's happening and how we can work together to really better understand how people can be empowered to create the change that they are motivated to create in the world, because our world needs it. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Anna, and I'm in UK, sort of middle to northern part of UK, so not that near to London. I'm excited to be part of this conversation again. I haven't been here for very long, but maybe done one or two last year. So this is a new thing for me. And it's really nice to be just talking to women in different countries. That's quite amazing. And sharing our experiences. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's really lovely to see you again. And Anna, really nice to meet you. I'm the one that's in the snow here in interior British Columbia, Canada. Hence the toque. We call them toques here. I think beanies in other countries. It's still a little bit chilly. Yeah, I'm just so thrilled to share this space. It's been quite a while, and I think it's really important to have these conversations as well. So thank you. Look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for introducing yourself. We're still waiting for Gertraud, and I hope she will jump in. She comes from Germany. So in the meantime, we will start. And I would like personally to start with you, Luna, because you have been away and have had fantastic experiences, I think, on your journey. And I would like to hear a little bit about what you have learned about it and whatever comes to your mind.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have been on quite the adventure. So I began to do some facilitation work with children last year. And that was something that I hadn't really planned to do, but it came to me in such a way that it was very clear that that's what I must do. I'm a family constellations facilitator and a health coach. And I work with people around their goals in the area of transformation. And my mentor had said to me, have you thought about working with kids? And it kept coming up like that. It came up a few times from people that I really look to as my elders. And then a dear colleague of mine let me know of an organization in Southeast Asia that's doing programs, two kinds of programs. They work with underprivileged kids who don't have access to education and programs such as this, as well as working with extraordinarily privileged children, creating programs for these children to really make the connection around being global citizens and begin to understand a bigger picture of their responsibility as human beings here on this planet, and really engaging them into stepping into their leadership. And so that's the kind of program that I ended up becoming a facilitator for last year. And I had the great privilege of working with some incredible facilitators from all over the world. I had just a wonderful program manager. She's from California, Haley Hux, and was just such an incredibly inspiring woman. She's been working with kids for many years, and wow, it was a huge growth experience. The thing that was really interesting for me is that the kinds of groups that I facilitated up to that point are adults who are really choosing to work on themselves. And when they show up in the space, there's sort of like this already agreed upon energy that we're entering. Whereas the kids, they're kind of like, oh, some of them are like, I don't know why I'm here, or and they were 12-year-olds, the kids that I was working with. So they're right in that age where they're trying to exercise. They're feeling what it is to be independent of their families. They're discovering who they are. They're discovering the opposite sex for some of them. So there was all these dynamics at play, and wow, did they ever challenge me in a really beautiful way. I'm so grateful to them for what they taught me. Because one of the things for me is that last year was an incredibly challenging year, dealing with some deep and big pieces in my personal life. And what I found with children is that they're incredibly present. And if I was not present, yeah, they noticed right away. So it kept me really in the moment, and it kept me in my body, which was a huge teaching. Yeah, and there's so much more I could share about the experience. It was very deep. The programs that I was on were in Malaysia. So I first went to Thailand to meet the organization and really love what they're doing, what they stand for, who they are, what they're all about, and then got to go to Malaysia and work with two groups of children there. So it was really incredible. Yeah, and yeah, a new year now. Looking into more facilitation with kids. There's an incredible woman who's come to start the foundation here in Canada. So I've met with her. I facilitated a 2-day program with her already at a university called Quest University, which is a sort of alternative place in Squamish, British Columbia. Really beautiful setting, and we were working with the global challenges with the kids. So this is the 17 global challenges that the UN has identified are the areas of focus that we need innovation in order to really make a positive shift on this planet. So the curriculum and the program that Monica really worked hard to put together, and we facilitated there with the kids, was about educating them around these 17 challenges and getting them really connected and thinking into how they might want to contribute to that, both locally and globally. Yeah, so exciting things.
A short question, how old are these kids?
Again, these kids were around the same age. So this was actually the kids that I just worked on that with were 10 to 12. And then 12-year-olds were the age that I was working with in Malaysia. Mm-hmm. But the foundation does work with grades. Let's see. So they work with all the way from grade 6 up to grade 12. I don't know how that, I'm just trying to think how that translates in Europe with the grades.
I don't know, but I am
around 8 years old to about 17.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Is there any material on these 17 global challenges?
Yeah, there is actually, and I can probably, I don't know if I can share it while we're live here, but if there's somewhere where I can post it or...
Mm-hmm. Please do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find this really fascinating. Can I come in? Partly because I trained with children as a child psychotherapist, so that was my focus, but also because at the moment, oh, this is Gertrude just joining. Recently come across this guy called Gary Davis, who has set up a world citizenship. It actually started in 1948, but it's still going. And one of our party is connected to a theater group and wanted to put on some sort of a project for children to get involved with the feeling of becoming world citizens. So I would really love to connect up with the work that you're doing. Obviously, I'm in UK, but you know, there is much that we can just fertilize each other with the ideas. It just sounds wonderful. Wonderful what you're doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'd really love that. Mm.
Yeah, and Luna, feel free to share as much as you want with me, and I put it on the website so people can get all the resources there. Okay.
And something I just like to sort of pose to the group also is that the last conversation that I had with, it's a very small group of us starting here in Canada, and Monica's at the helm, and another Monica. And one of the things that I sort of had this big spark about in our last meeting was that I have so many conversations with incredible individuals, and being a lifelong learner myself, the sort of the phrase or the thing that comes out is, gosh, that should be taught in schools. This should be taught in schools. You know, it's the real life skills. It's about how do we, the interpersonal stuff, how do we relate to one another? How do we connect? Things like that. So I'd love to hear from all of you as well, as far as building out these programs and being in a space where that's really starting up here. There's a real space to create change, and I'd love to hear if any of you have thoughts or perspectives, or if you've had those moments yourself where you've thought this should be taught in schools, you know, to young children. So it's creating a real foundation and a bedrock for them for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
So let's welcome at this point Gertraud. Do you want to present yourself a moment? I already said you are in Germany, but you can have other 2 or 3 sentences to present yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I was very much occupied with my work and I completely forgot the time. So I apologize for being late. I'm Gertraud from Germany, coach, trainer, consultant, appreciator. And yeah, for now, it's enough for now, and I will when I get what you're talking about.
Whoever feels inspired to say something is called to say something. About goals, about what Luna said, about whatever you want to share.
Okay. Yes, I very much relate to what you were saying about opening up education for children to include what we value in terms of our interrelationships, because a lot of what they learn is really stultifying. It doesn't enable them, it doesn't empower them. It's just open your cranium and stuff this stuff in and learn it, and it actually doesn't benefit them or anybody else. So my feeling about education in general is it really needs a tremendous overhaul. My grandson is actually being home educated, and I'm really enthusiastic about self-directed education, which is totally different from what actually happens in the schools. So when children choose what they want to learn, then they first of all learn much better, much more quickly. Their enthusiasm is what carries them, because children have such a lot of energy to, to come into the world with that. And it really gets suppressed in schools at the moment, rather than encouraging them to use it to find out about the world. So I'm making very sweeping generalizations. I'm sure that there are some schools which are good and, where the teachers are dedicated and really help. But for me, the fact that education is compulsory is already a negative factor, because children don't choose whether they can be in school or not. So that's sort of the beginning of where education really needs to open up, I would say. I'll leave it there.
As we are talking about education, I first want to remind all of us that the possibility for children being in school is a very short time. It's only 100-something years. And there are still countries in where, for instance, girls cannot go to school. And this is not a good thing. But regarding the subjects in school, what I would imagine, first of all, much more art and much more music, but also these skills like listening, like really seeing the details, learning to see details instead of these are life skills, which in my opinion are, I see it with myself. I mean, I have learned listening being a musician, but still seeing, for instance, it's scarce, and you can learn these things, and it would be much better to really see what is going on instead of seeing a short picture and then make your interpretations of that. And I'm really sure that could be learned from an early age on. And I do think listening, children are very good at a certain age, and then that's what I think, you know, when they are listening to something interesting. So far, what I wanted to say to that. I see, Gertrude, you want to?
Yes, I don't know what Luna said. I'm very curious, so I will re-listen. But I think if we are talking about school at the moment, I think one really important thing is how to deal with life, how to know how to learn, how to get along with people, how to take on projects, to take over responsibility. And so everything you need in life, because of the internet, we have all the knowledge is available. If you have a smartphone, you can wherever you want and take the knowledge about to look how you can be someone who is capable in the world, who can deal with other people, can deal with the knowledge, can for example, when we talk about that, listen, how can I see what knowledge is really relevant and what serves me and what is just nonsense, and all this is for me a very important part. And we had a funny revelation that we have written a book about appreciation. That's appreciation, how to create flow and meet the numbers for leaders in business. And then we realized that a lot of teachers bought it. They started because we have what we call a toolbar in the end, where there are a lot of things that you can do with groups. And all of a sudden they said, oh, it's so great to use it, because before everybody wants to have appreciation, but nobody knows how to do it and how to apply it and what to do with the kids and things like that. And that was really, really great to hear that. Yep.
I also love the framework of using the 17 development goals that the UN put together. Luna had talked about that in her piece. And a lot of groups, organizations, people are organizing around those principles because it helps us to focus our attention on pieces that we need to address as a global community. And just in terms of teaching kids how to think, that's part of, critical thinking and listening, like Heidi was talking about. That's, we need to learn how to learn. And that extends to kids, but it also extends to us as adults, to be able to talk about the things that we need to address in ways that are effective, and we don't kind of kneecap our attempts to have the conversation at all. And I think that, yeah, it's 17 is a lot of development goals for sure, but I think that we have to be comprehensive when we look at our challenges and recognize that they're all interwoven together. And I mean, even me myself, in trying to think about the scale and level of challenge that we're faced with, it becomes overwhelming. So it's good to kind of break it down into buckets that we understand are interrelated, and we can have the capacity to think through in a good way.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tammy. I'm also really recognizing with the learning, and that this translates to adults as well. And for my own work this year, I've personally really been unpacking my own little child within as well. And it's been really neat to work with the kids and get that reflection about what areas weren't watered or fostered or acknowledged or encouraged when I was young, and how I can do that now for myself as well, and continue to grow and then continue to be able to give that back. So learning how to learn, yeah, is an ongoing journey. Mm-hmm.
Actually, when you are a curious person and when you love to learn, I guess this is one of the greatest blessings you can have in your life. And I always was curious, and I'm still. So it's still, there are decades ahead of you, Luna. You can learn a lot. And yeah, I wouldn't want to miss any experience I had in my life or whatever I learned. But talking to you is something I obviously, in this phase of my life, past my 70s, approaching 80s on the horizon, very far away still. This is soothing. It really, it nourishes me. So talking to women is something, yeah, I like to talk to men too, but I never relax as much as when I talk to women. Yeah, so I'm just wanting to put that I'm glad to part of this conversation.
What is it with us women which makes it different?
Listening, really listening. And you don't, at least I have the impression that we don't push, we don't manipulate, we don't want a certain goal. And of course, it's very male to have a certain goal. And one of my goals was a long time enlightenment or awakening or whatever you want to call it. But this is an animus part. So the female part, one of my impressions is now the female part just wants to be and appreciate being. And this is something my generation, we had always our duties and our challenges. And yeah, well, you too have challenges now, but yours are global. Mine weren't global at that time. Yeah. It's the whole structure of the male and the female way of acting, thinking, and to unify it. I'm not sure this is really a positive thing, a positive development, just to have one gender, because this polarity between the sexes, I find that very important. And yeah, so men used to keep me on my toes. But now I'm glad I got my heels down as well.
You must unmute yourself, Anna. I muted you at a certain point. Mm-hmm.
I think as women, we have really always had to struggle that little bit harder to make ourselves heard. So I think that struggle, first of all, pulls us together. We recognize other women as having the same sort of struggle in life as we have had. And I think that brings us together. And it also means that we tend to work on ourselves more easily or more naturally, or because we are interested in, or as Monia said, as we are curious, so we're also curious about ourselves and becoming who we really are. I think it's less obvious than it is for a man. A man goes out and finds a career and feels very identified with what it is that they're doing. For a woman, it isn't so obvious or so simple to find out who we are. There's also, I think, the fact that we somehow realize whatever you want to call it, our womanness or our feminine power has been missing in the world and really needs to come in. So I think that also brings us together as women, that we know that we are needed in a way that we have to undertake some really important work for the sake of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to add, I think the difference is also that women are more likely to work on the inside and men more likely to work outside somewhere. And so we are more curious what is going on maybe in the family and then in ourselves. And men are more curious to see how the world works in the mechanical way of it's a stereotype. I'm clear about that, but I see the difference. And many women, men, for instance, John Freeman, we talked about with him and Barbara von Maybaum, and John said when he did these courses, there were one man or maximum two in 20, 25 women. So that is a fact that women are more interested in exploration of the inner world. Men cannot do it, but it's just a question of interest. And which comes then to me, what is directing our interests, our passions, what is it that we are drawn to something more and to other things not? If it's in your case, which Monia said about she's drawn to talk with women, what is that force?
Heidi, Anna mentioned feminine power. Maybe we could define what this term means for us. And you, if I remember correctly, you had teachings and courses in feminine power. I would really be very much interested to hear more details about that. But I would like everybody to ask everybody, what is feminine power for you?
Okay, I begin with that. And I think what now in all this discussion of Me Too and whatever comes up, and yesterday or the other day, the letter of Catherine Deneuve, I think she said it very clearly. Feminine power is take responsibility for ourselves and become empowered and not be a victim which needs protection. So that's mainly, in short terms, what feminine power is. Be empowered, stand up for ourselves, and don't rely on on somebody who is helping you, protecting you, or whatever. I know that Anna has done some courses too, in feminine power, which for me was a revelation and a life changer, really. So I would ask you, what is your quintessence? What you have learned there?
Well, it's a tricky question because, every woman is different. And I don't think really it helps in a way, although I use the term, it's not a term that I would generally use, because to make this distinction between men and women doesn't to me. I don't think that women have a particular power and then men have a particular power. So I probably couldn't say anything very useful about feminine power. Just that it feels in general that because patriarchy has been actually ruling a lot of countries and the world in general, there is something missing, and it's to do with caring, I think. But of course, men care too. So it's not to say only women care, but I think, you know, that's why it's very tricky. But there is something missing from the way that the world is being run at the moment, and it is to do with caring. And that is something which I think women, maybe because of our biology or because of the way that we have been in a way forced to stay at home and look after the children, that history has made us more concerned about people. But that doesn't mean that men can't become concerned or that there is a lack of care in men. So I'll leave it there.
I would like to do another thing which just came to my mind, what feminine power also characterizes in respect to masculine power, that feminine power is comfortable with the unknown and goes towards a goal, but is collecting information from all the sides and just goes and sees where we come. It's a little bit like we do here. And while masculine power is to have a goal, have a set of tools and go. You know, that's a complete different way of handling and going towards something in the world. And what we need, as Anna said, in our times is really to collect the information which we can get as feedback loops from everywhere to course correct. And the masculine power is, oh, we have said we do that and then we do it, you know, things like that. That makes a difference. Okay, so far for me.
But I think that definition that you're giving is really more culturally determined. We have come to connect those sort of things with masculine and those sort of things with feminine because of the culture, the traditions of the cultures that are generally connect those sort of characteristics with masculine or feminine. We don't really know what it would be like if men and women were totally free to be themselves and there wasn't any pressure towards one sort or the other. And great, find out, hopefully, eventually. But the freedom to be whatever you want to be is the most important thing.
Yeah, I find myself also a little uncomfortable with the gender binary and to frame it in that place. But I will share an insight that I was shocked to see in myself a couple years ago, which was modifying my. I found the cultural memes around the roles of men and women appeared in myself. So I realized that I had a different feeling when work was coming from a woman as to a man. And I saw in myself this lessening of the importance. And I was just shocked to feel that artifact of the cultural world that we're in inside myself, because I certainly don't identify that way in my heart, in my intellect. But there are these cultural norms that, yeah, I found one that had stuck, and when I saw it, I was shocked. And I think that you know, the social structures and the culture that we're embedded in are a huge part of who we are as a moving target, right? And so even though it's just a social construct, it's huge in how it lays a mask over what we might think. So part of what I'm up to is really testing a lot of the assumptions that I have about things, because at the end of the day, what is truth? Truth is what we collectively believe in many ways. And we have the power to change what we believe. And I think that we're in a time where we need to really look at what we think and believe and test those assumptions and shift our perceptions. So I've been hoovering away inside at these places where I notice that I've been bitten by these cultural memes around women being lesser. And not trying to blame myself for having that experience, because that's another thing that I find that I do is, oh, you know, I've done it wrong. Actually, I'm just embedded in a world that's not working as it should. And so yeah, I just wanted to put that piece in our collective pot, because it's also changing our minds about what we think and believe, and shifting how we communicate and how we treat each other and how we are in the world, kind of from the ground up.
I guess, Tammy, you mentioned at earlier talks that you united a male approach and a female approach. And I guess all of us here must have this male decisiveness, let's call it decisiveness. But what I find, we also have this appreciation of each other. And this, to get these two in a yin-yang flow, well, maybe an important next step for everybody. My share in the pot.
I would like to cite someone. I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's Niobe, or we would say Niobe Way. She has done some research on boys. Not only, but I'm just citing her now. And she followed boys from early on through puberty. And she realized that boys have best friends. They hug each other. They might be a little more physical, but they share their insights and really talk about feelings and things like that. So, but when they mature, when they grow older than about 13, then they are afraid of being looked at as they were gay, girls, or anything like that. So they shut up and they become male in the our normal sense. And that results in loneliness, many even suicides, and that they are more and more morph into what we think man is. And that they are born with the same capacities, the same heart capacities, I would say, and the same loving care for each other, and yeah, and caring for others. And that she found very disturbing, very disheartening, and so she was working a lot on that, so that we our culture betrays boys and deprives them from really having friendships the way girls are allowed to have longer, even becoming adults, and still have good friends. I mean, not sports friends, but this really best friends way of being together.
I think we as a species are very much warriors, and warriors in the sense of fighting, you know. And boys needed at least to be brought up for being fighters, because if they were sensitive, like their own, they wouldn't be useful soldiers. So this is certainly a cultural thing. But I ask myself, seeing the growing up of humanity, it seems to be quite a human thing that people see the need to fight each other and to be better and to be higher or whatever. And I think as long as we have not recognized this drive to be always on the top, you know, then, and also women, it's not only men who want to be on the top, you know, then it's really difficult to gain this possibility, because to be on the top, you must be a little bit insensitive, because as a sensitive person, how do you come there? You have to fight to come on the top. Just a little bit as a historical context for that. And of course, at the beginning, you know, they were meant to create good soldiers, to create good, obedient young people. So, and first it was the boys in schools, and then later the girls. So.
Heidi, I think you bring up a really good point, and I think we're in a really interesting time right now, where it is more about how do you feel in your own being. Each of us has both masculine and feminine energy, but if we're looking at biologically where we've come from, and the roles of men and women, the very nature of women bearing children made it so that our roles were different, and that men needed a certain set of skills and way of being in order to protect the family, protect the tribe, and to hunt. And I've been in some of my trauma research, something that was really interesting was talking about how the way that boys and girls are treated differently as babies as well, the way that we nurture them, or the way that we sort of, we're sort of a little bit more rough with boys, and this is generally speaking, and there's less eye contact or like long gazing. And to also learn that for men, men's stress actually goes up when there's eye contact. So why is this? And I recently heard a great talk with a man named Eric Edmeades, and he was speaking about spending time with the bush people in Africa. And he said that if they were to spend time gazing into someone else's eyes, it would potentially mean death. And you don't have time for that. You need to be looking intently to where the animal is. And, you know, if you're going to be eating or eaten. So I thought that that was very interesting. And I think that what's so interesting about the time that we're in now is that we almost are a different kind of human being, because we have domesticated ourselves so much. We've created so many barriers and systems to be safe from that sort of like moment to moment danger. But we still have that wiring in our biology, and we also have choice, and we also have this wonderful conversation, non-binary conversation. And we get to ask ourselves, how do I feel? Do I feel more masculine or do I feel more feminine? What do I want to express? And for me, I feel becoming an entrepreneur and being really outward in the world and results driven, I got very much into my masculine energy. And I noticed a real shift in my own health for myself. That for me, my feminine power is about feeling empowered with my natural proclivity to feel like a nurturer, to feel like I'm creating that maybe more softer space. So for me, I'm really getting in touch with what feels healthy for me in my own being, and what feminine power is for me. And that we need each other. We deeply need one another. That the sexual creative energy is the most powerful energy in the universe. It's the energy that creates life. And so there is a real imperative in the way that we come together in that way as well, that I would really like to honor here. It's a wonderful topic. I love talking about this. I love hearing all your thoughts.
As we have this moment of space between us, it occurs to me that that's part of it, right? Is being able to have those moments of quiet, to be able to reorient to what needs to be expressed next. And you know what Heidi was talking about around, yes, there's a general goal, but we're picking up along the sides all of the information that we need to be able to understand it. And if I were forced to deeply consider the feminine principle for me, it is that wholeness. It is that understanding, or that body of knowing, that is the whole thing is connected together. So all of the information, all of the points of connectivity between things, those elements for me feel like part of what we call a feminine facility, or may understand as a feminine facility, if we were to break it into the binary male and female. And I think that that's one of the pieces that makes it more difficult, because it's a lot of information to process. And I feel like we're all, finding ways to be able to process more, and to be able to take it all in. So my personal struggle and practice and yearning is to be able to hold better without holding in a bad way, without carrying too much, because I do feel that that's something that I need to personally work on, is not actually carrying, but allowing that information to flow in right relationship with me. Because there's a lot to take in in the world right now, as we're, in multiple crises. And it's really important for us to find ways to be able to be with that information and link together, so that we don't feel that we're overwhelmed by the scale of challenge. and can take things kind of moment by moment, step by step, with this deep presence to be able to respond in a good way.
I would take this moment for saying that we have Gina Donaldson in the audience, and she has written some comments which I didn't notice. I'm sorry, Gina. And as we are with male, female, I read this one. There's also an argument that because male and female brain develop differently and are impacted by the soup of hormones at all ages, there is a difference in behavior that are foundational or pre-culture. What she says to that point. She has written something else. Oh, she's in Canada too, by the way.
Oh. Tammy, listening closely to what you said, I noticed that you switched the term power for the term facilities. You spoke of female facilities and not of female power. Are you more comfortable with that?
That's an interesting, thank you for listening so closely, and there's so many clues in that. I think that I am personally working on my capacities and facilities, and perhaps it's not interchangeable with power. And maybe there's a cultural overlay that pushes me away from power, for sure. So good catch. I will deeply consider that.
Yeah, we are at the end of the hour. If you want to go longer, for me, it's fine. Otherwise, we do a round and talk about takeaways or projects or what you want to say as a checkout.
May I just answer to Regina's comments? I think that's valid because we are different in our hormone system and in many different ways, and to throw it all out with culture is not right, because there is some kind of difference. And what Luna said, I think even this physical, this might not be cultural, but evolutionary maybe, that male protected the tribe, and the females needed to be protected and have that broader view to look after the children. So to not this focus, hunt the deer, but where are they? Some kind. So I think that's valid, and so we need to distinguish very much, and sometimes we can't because we are living in what we find between that. So not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and I think that's a very valid point. And to honor that, because my husband is doing a lot of men's work, so he's in men's groups. They meet several times a year, and this is a different energy when they come together, and so to honor that as well. Yeah, so I'm done. Now you can wrap up.
Was it your wrap up already or your checkout? So you can begin and then we go through the... Anna, if you want, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're muted again. Now it's now you're no.
I'll jump in. Monia, thank you. I think this is part of the power of what we provide as women, is to give people, is to experience more of a full view. So that is a place that I'm working on. I'm actually wearing what I consider my superpower outfit. I don't know. I just like how the red and the blue go together, but it makes me feel a little bit like a superhero, and therefore, you know, empowered. And I am working on the places in me that don't feel fully empowered, while just walking in the world in the best way that I know how. And so it's interesting to me to have you point out that I shied away from using the word power. And I'm working on it. And part of it for me is I really feel the power of what a group is. And there's a sensitivity that I have around that moment. Right now I'm speaking. Right now there's a certain power that I hold in this share, right? And you guys are supporting and giving me that by listening. And I'm really curious about how we work in that space, in communicating these challenges that we have, in making visible the things that we know we need to shift inside. And so I just find it very, very powerful to be shown by my colleagues where I may be limiting myself through really subtle cues like language, so that I can stand differently in that. So I just want to say thank you so much for pointing that out. And that, I guess part of me is like, we don't really know how to do any of this. But when we reflect each other and show each other and give feedback to each other in that way, we all get to learn. And as Luna says, I'm also a, you know, dedicated learner, because we need to do some deep learning here on multiple levels, and it's not all tied up with a pretty bow. So I'm really grateful, Monia, for your clarity and your insight, and for sharing that today.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm a translator, so words are just my stepping stones. And this was, yeah, it was. But thank you for your appreciation. I am wondering about the body, because I heard that our brain stem, the middle part, is larger in women than in men, so we can switch faster. I don't know. This is just something I read. I'm not I have no experience in that. But I like the idea of being able to communicate, and while we communicate, to be aware of the whole of the group, and our contribution to the group, not just to be heard and to be seen, which isn't really important. I was amazed because when I look at all of you, there is so much personal history behind every one of you. And there's just this point where we now come together. And yeah, each of us has such detailed, interesting stories. And we never come to share that. We would probably have to talk every evening, and that's too much. It's just, but I wonder if we get to know each other better or closer or in more detail, if this would change the whole of the group as well. This is my checkout. And I thank you all very, very much.
To dovetail on that, I'm just imagining that, going back to that time that I was sort of thinking and feeling into, that we would be sitting around each day in ancient times and milling the grains and watching the children, and that we would get to deeply know one another. And I was having that feeling and sense also during this talk with all of you, that I would love to know you better, more fully. So thank you for that. And I think I'll just end on that, and that I'm really happy to be back in this space with you all. Thank you.
It's great to see you again, Luna. It's been quite a while. And yeah, it's a nice start into the year with all of you on board. And thank you very much. And my apologies again that I was too late. So I missed Luna's introduction. And yeah, I think maybe I can tell a small story. I was at my eldest daughter's after Christmas, and she has a baby of 4 months now, a son, and her 3-year-old is a daughter. And she says, I can feel the difference in the way they nursed, or she nursed, and he's now nursing. And it's like, she said, he came out and was a boy. Not that I was, she wasn't expecting that. I mean, she's pretty self-aware, and so it was really interesting to see that difference in them being babies by themselves and not made up, I think. At least not very much. So yeah, I wish all of you and whoever is listening a wonderful year, a year full of miracles, health, whatever you wish come true, and just a marvelous year. And I'm happy to meet you again.
Gertrud, just what are miracles for you? This would be another topic. So
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of miracles, but we are in the checkout, and Anna tries desperately to unmute herself, and now you are muted. You have to click again on that button. Okay, now it should work. No.
But nothing is happening.
Oh, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah? You can hear me now? No. Yes?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So I just was touched that one of the listeners wrote in, and I really appreciate that. And that feels that we are connected not just with our little group, but with a much wider group. And that really feels lovely. So I just wanted to thank that listener for this interaction, because it could actually be quite interactive, this sort of connection that we have. And in general, I just feel very nourished with this conversation. Thank you very much for, yeah, I just feel really warm inside from having made this connection with everybody. So thank you.
Yeah, and last not least, it's me. I'm so happy that you are here and that Gina is here in the audience, and maybe other women and the people who later will listen to it. It feels in somehow that we are creating something together. We don't know what, but we are doing something, and I'm really happy that you are coming together with me to do that. And I'm glad that we have the possibility, with all the technical difficulties that might be there, that we can do that today, and that we can be together, of 5 countries together at one point. And there came the idea to meet in person. I mean, I still have this big house. We only have to create a date and come here for a week, and then we can talk from 24 hours a day. If you would like it, let me know, and we plan it for next year. I would love that for sure. So, and the viewers too, they can connect with us. And if you are interested in these conversations, which are not goal-driven, as you saw, but at the same time, in our conversation today, I saw so many topics which could arise and which we could go deeper into. It's amazing. We have a lot to talk. And we wouldn't have any spare hour without knowing what to talk. Anyway, thank you again. And we meet again next month, I guess, because you're also busy. I don't think we can do 2 in a month. If you feel ready to do 2 conversations a month, for me, it's fine. Otherwise, in March, and we will figure out what topic you do. And please feel free to share the link to people, to women who might be interested, and listen afterwards. And then they can still write their comments, and we can still answer to the comments on the website, no? The wisdomfactory.net. And then we have, let me see. Come on. /women-1-2018. This is the link for our conversation of today. So thank you very much. And I close now the recording. You can stay here, but I close the recording. Bye-bye.